Here we go. Well, hi everybody, and welcome back to Political Connections. We are on the road to county government, getting a chance to talk to folks that are within the county governments. We have 7 areas that we serve. We've already done Citrus, Hernando, Pasco, and now we're in Hillsborough County, where we have Les Miller, who is the chairman of the board. Good to see you right here. And Mike Merrill is the county administrator. Thank you so much. Well, let's start out with the bragging point. You did a survey, and you found out customer satisfaction was how high?
98%.
98%. Well, what are you going to do to top that?
A lot better.
It never ends.
That's pretty good. Let's dive right into it. Transportation issue was a big deal. Voters said, yep, they wanted to tax themselves a little extra money to be put in some projects. Went to the court. The court said what they're doing is constitutional, we believe, but the dividing up of the money is not. So is that a fair assessment of where we're at right now, trying to figure out these 5 pots of money, what money goes where, and do we have to wait for any more court rulings before anything can be done?
Well, we're going to have to wait, but we're not waiting. We're waiting on what the Supreme Court says, but we're not waiting as far as putting an ordinance in place to divide those pots up. I made a motion a couple meetings ago to have our staff, the county staff, draw an ordinance to divide those pots. 54% coming to the counties and municipalities, 45% going to Hart, and 1% going to the MPO for administrative services. As a matter of fact, I just got a draft of that ordinance that's coming out that we'll be looking at in September. So we're moving forward, but of course the Supreme Court has to make a decision on it, and we just have to wait and see the Supreme Court.
Mike, in this waiting period, when you talk about voter initiatives, you know what comes to people's minds, education lottery. I was here when that whole thing started. Everybody thought that was going to be enhancement funding. Didn't end up being enhancement. It went into the general budget. You still have transportation needs that are going to be met with or without that money, correct?
We do, and that's a very good question because we also have a lot of other needs: fire rescue, code enforcement, law enforcement. So we were using other general fund money because we didn't have a dedicated funding source. But our other needs continue to grow. We need better response time for fire rescue. So the question is going to be, policy question is, do we in fact use the surtax for transportation alone and use other general revenue for other?
Are you getting a lot of calls on this? Is the public really concerned about this? Because we've interviewed people that introduced this measure and talked to people afterwards, and they've been pretty adamant about wanting to follow the spirit of the law that they created.
The most of the comments I get from people, I just spoke to a group on Monday, is they're hoping that the Supreme Court oppose the tax.
Okay.
58% of the people voted for it. And even those, I think, that did not vote for it now realize, hey, this is something that voters want. What's taking so long? Yeah, well, I saw a lawsuit was filed in the Supreme Court's hands. We're still in the process of doing what we need to do, and just hoping the Supreme Court will vote the tax.
If I were to ask you, what are your top 3 budget items that you could just label right off your head and go, these are the top 3 things that we have to work with? Mike, let me ask you.
Well, it's definitely fire rescue, affordable housing, and probably transportation, of course.
Right.
But parks and recreation would be the third.
You are both blessed and cursed with expansion. The wonderful thing about expansion is you've got a tax base that is getting bigger and bigger, but you also have more and more citizens that expect service to be just as good as if you had 10 people versus 1.4 million people.
Exactly. And we have to give that service, and that's what makes it so difficult. I can't remember how many fire stations we need right now.
24.
24 new fire stations.
24.
24.
And that's just to take care of existing deficiencies. That's not counting growth in the future. So, you know, we have done more with less, and over the last 10 years, the cost per capita cost of government providing service is 11% less. I have fewer employees per 1,000 residents than I did 10 years ago. Our total taxes and fees are the lowest among all the 6 or 7 large counties, but we haven't reduced service. We've added service. But now it's reached a breaking point where we have response time issues in fire rescue. We should be getting to the scene in 7 minutes or less.
Yeah.
It's not happening. And affordable housing is on everyone's mind these days.
Is there any city that has figured out affordable housing, i.e. putting together housing that sometimes people call it workforce housing, that is affordable for people to live there, but will also pay its own weight? Or is affordable housing, is that not possible? We've been talking about transportation. Oftentimes, transportation can't carry its own weight.
Well, affordable housing is an issue that government has to tackle. I mean, whether state government or local government. The problem in Florida that has been is that the legislature, even when I was there, raised the Sadowski Fund. The Sadowski Fund is a trust fund. Of course, a lot of people don't know this, that from dock stamps is paid into that's for affordable housing.
Mm-hmm.
And so the legislature allocating those dollars to areas that need them, being the largest counties get the most. They raid that trust fund to utilize those funds someplace else. And the little dollars that we get to the counties and cities are null and void. So that onus is being placed on the counties to try to figure out what we can do for affordable housing. Now, right now, in Hillsborough County, we're looking at and working on $10 million of what we might call a trust fund.
Mm-hmm.
But is $10 million a lot of money for affordable housing? It is not, but at least we're starting to make that move to look at what can we do with affordable housing. We have an affordable housing officer in Hillsborough County, have a brilliant lady that's running that office that we brought into Hillsborough County, and they're doing a fantastic job. But there's just not enough money out there, and as Mike just said, we're strapped for what other things we have to do, so we put in as much as we possibly can. But if the legislature puts raiding the Sadowski Fund and allow it to build up and send those dollars to us, then maybe we can do some of the things you just mentioned.
Now, you look at downtown Tampa, and you just kind of go, this is miraculous.
Mm-hmm.
Not many cities can say we've got $3 billion plus invested into a downtown area. What does the county get out of all of that?
Well, we do levy taxes countywide, so even property taxes that are paid in the cities help pay for countywide services like pet resources and senior services. So that does benefit us in those areas, but it does benefit the city of Tampa more directly.
How do you make sure that you're addressing the other issues out in Brandon? My in-laws have lived there for years, and other areas of the county where they have needs, but they don't seem to be as dramatic as some of the other needs, and yet not letting those people feel like they've been shortchanged because you're working in another part, either closer to downtown or up in the USF area? Well,
as a county, we're focusing on the entire county, but most of our needs that we work for as a county commission is in unincorporated Hillsborough County. The city of Tampa does what they have to do.
Mm-hmm.
We have more people, of course, in unincorporated Hillsborough County than the city of Tampa, Plant City, and Temple Terrace put together, probably 3 times as much. So we've got to meet those needs as folks. So we have to let them understand that our county commissioners and our county staff, we're focusing on your needs in unincorporated Hillsborough County. Those 22 fire stations you're talking about, that's not in the city of Tampa, Plant City, or Temple Terrace. That's in unincorporated Hillsborough County.
Any concern that the city of Tampa may try to expand? Because in Pinellas County, there have been other counties where they tend to want to expand and annex more areas. Are you good where you sit right now? That's not a possibility?
Well, the city of Tampa, we have seen some annexations, Plant City and Temple Terrace, voluntary, so-called voluntary annexations where we really don't have a say in that.
Mm-hmm.
City of Tampa, not so much. Once they did New Tampa,
that did it, right?
That was pretty much it.
Okay, I got to get two things out of the way here, maybe 3 things. Baseball, still looking to try to bring the Rays? Anybody? Wait a minute, that's hitchhiking, right?
That's
yes,
the
no.
privilege of the boss.
Yeah, yes, no, indifferent.
No, I think so. We were very serious at the end of last year. We worked very hard to put a proposal on the table.
Yeah.
And so we continue to be serious. There's not much we can do right now because of the restrictions that we've been talking about.
Yeah, sit and wait. And then the last question, Cross Bay Ferry from the Apollo Beach area to MacDill. Is that dead? Is that alive? What?
It's now in the heart, over the heart. The Board of County Commissioners last week on the boats decided that that's a transportation issue. It should be with Hart, so it's now in the Hart. The Hart Board, which I happen to chair, has not had an opportunity to take that up yet.
Okay.
I've been talking with Lynn Member, who's executive director over there, to see what we can do. So eventually the Hart Board's gonna have to look at that. But it's over there.
So I get to respond to my survey. I won't give you a 98% satisfaction. I'll give you a 100% satisfaction. There you go.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, Mike, good to see you. Les, good to see you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Al.